Hello, creative friends and creative planners and artists. I wanted to show you my Hemlock and Oak, not really collection, but my Hemlock and Oak notebooks that I've acquired over the last year. I have a couple new ones here, and I want to showcase the one that I've been working through. And what I really wanted to use this time for was to kind of show you the different paper qualities or the different paper types in each of the Hemlock and Oak books. I know when I started this planner journey, I sort of went from a really cheap, lower cost, I guess, planner from Michael's, which was like about $14 Canadian. And I slowly graduated my way up to the Hemlock and Oak. And I will say I love the Hemlock and Oak planners. They are definitely an investment. And I don't use these in a typical planner fashion in the way of like itemizing out all of my to-dos or what I have going that day, because I use these as more of a journal. And I kind of started off when I first started using the Hemlock and Oak. That's sort of what I started using it off for, but I don't do that anymore. We evolve as we kind of navigate through this planner journey, and you kind of figure out like what works for you, what doesn't. Just like everyone else, I watch a myriad of videos and kind of see like try different things, and eventually you land at a spot that you're happy with that works for you and your life. Anyways, so I have my daily duos here. This is the January to June one. At the very bottom here is my July to December. So that's the volume 2. You can see this is quite chunky for the first half of the year. And then I wanted to go through the other planners that I have. So one of my big things, again, is knowing the paper quality and kind of being able to trust that the paper will kind of do what you want it to do for your purposes. And so the Daily Duos have a, it's called the Heritage 120 GSM paper. It's fountain pen friendly and like a thicker sort of paper. I do find that sometimes the fountain pen inks, depending on the brand and type, it does sort of feather and bleed a little bit, but it really just depends on the brand. Otherwise, it holds up fairly well. Then next in line is we have they have like graph notebooks or dotted notebooks, and they're just undated blank page type notebooks. You can see this one is the grid one, or the graph one that they call. You can see the little graph. It's fairly light, the grid. And it is still a bright white, although the paper type is 150 GSM. So it's a little bit thicker than the paper type that I have in the Daily Duo. The new ones that I just got, because there was a sale, I believe, or I saw one of them was on sale, and I went and purchased, obviously, to max out the shipping. I purchased some paper flex and the cloth flex because I wanted to see how they would handle both of these. This one is the cloth flex. Oh my goodness, I can't even say that word. Cloth flex. And this one is in the color Rivière. And this is, you can see that you can't really feel it, but it is a cloth material with texture. And then it's sort of on a cardstock backing almost. I don't know if you can see it there. So we'll see how this holds up, because I feel like the corners could get raggedy, but I also feel like I've seen many other planners have their planners that are cloth flex hold up pretty well, but also too, I think a lot of them also have them in covers. Because I don't carry my books around, I really typically don't buy covers for mine unless it's a book that I will carry around with me. So then the next one here is the paper flex. So you can see that the spine has almost like a fabric to sort of make sure that it holds, and as well, it doesn't feel like it's going to come apart. The paper is, I would say, thicker than the cloth flex, but I think it's just because it's almost like a paper onto a paper backing. So it's almost like two cardstocks, like kind of adhered together, if that makes sense. So I can see, like, as the moment for both of these, the moment you like crunch the covers, bend it anyway, it's sort of going to like wreck, I guess. So that I would take caution with. Both of these notebooks have the dotted 70 GSM, which is their Archivist 70 GSM paper. And the reason why I wanted to buy these was because I have always wanted a planner, and right now Hemlock and Oak doesn't make the Daily Duos with the 70 GSM paper, so I wanted to try out a notebook with fully 70 GSM paper to see how it would hold up. And then the other thing I was going to test today was to show you, I ordered, these are new. These are their Archivist 70 GSM paper pads, and they're blank. And so I ordered a couple of these only because I can use them to write my pen pal letters. And then they're just great for like if I wanted to sketch on them or write a note or whatever, use them as a, paper pad, tip them, do something on them and then tip it into my planner. I could do that. So I thought these were very versatile to have. I'll primarily be talking about the Heritage 120 GSM, but I'll just quickly show you the 150 GSM paper. The 150 GSM paper are in their graph and dotted notebooks. I have a couple of them. I have a couple journals for my kids where I go in and I document or write down things I want them to remember, moments that we've had, things I want to impart them with, funny things, that sort of thing. You'll see here, I started this year because I actually had a different journal for them that I didn't fully finish because it got really crazy. Like, when you just feel a book and the pages, the last half of the book, is just almost like unusable because it's just so awkward to write in. That's sort of the point that those books got to. And so I ordered new ones for them. But I am severely behind. We are halfway through the year and I have gotten maybe 10 pages for my kids in each of their books. So, wish me luck that I, get a few more things kind of in here. But there is no obviously rush and stuff. But okay, so just to show you the paper again, this is the 150 GSM paper. This is one page here, so you can kind of see like how thick it is if I'm not too shaky. This one especially has a graph grid, and I believe, I don't have it, oh, I do. Let me just see here. I believe, yeah, they're about 5 millimeters, 5 by 5 is the square. Each square, if that matters, if you're bullet journaling or something. But I literally just use these as, they could be blank pages for all I need them to be, but they do help for writing because there's lines there obviously that I can work with. But just to give you an idea too here, so we'll just cover this. So on here you can see right here, this is this ink pad, the VersaFine ink pad, if I have it the right way. And so it's the pigment ink, and usually I find the pigment ink tends to seep through the paper, but this one, as you can see, so like this is the ink there, and then if I just flip this back here, just my child when he was younger, you can see there's a little bit of like ghosting, but very minimal on this paper. And if I have it laid down, you can barely see it. I mean, it's visible, but not like, nothing that's going to break, I feel like, my thoughts on not using this book anymore. So I would say that it holds up very well. I've used gel pens in here, fountain pens, as you can see, and they are markers, and you really don't see a lot of ghosting and stuff. So I would definitely recommend the 150 GSM book. All right, next up are my daily duos, the 2026 in Witching Hour. If you love shimmer and glitter like I do, if you order any of their glimmery, sparkly fabrics, you won't regret it. They are so beautiful. Like, look how sparkly that is. And it's not like over the top, I'm leaving sparkles and glitter behind me, sort of sparkle like in your face. You can see it. It's beautiful, but it's also very like subdued. I know that actually makes no sense because how do you have this much sparkle and still be subdued? But let me tell you, like, my next set of daily duos that I ordered for 2027 is in the color Faye, I believe, and it's like almost like a lilac, kind of like a lilac purple with sparkle, and I cannot wait to get it because I feel like it's going to be so beautiful. They also came out with 2 other colors with their pre-orders. They had a green, almost like a forest green, emerald greeny, kind of sparkly, shimmery kind of fabric, as well as the Witching Hour again. So if you can get your hands on them and you love sparkles, you won't regret it. But let's take a look at the first half of the year. So you can see January and June. You can see the gold foil is still intact. Again, I don't actually take my books anywhere with me. If anything, they kind of come with me in a bag if I'm heading to a cafe and I just want to have a coffee and journal a little bit or something. But for the most part, they sort of just stay at home. But you can see even with that, even with like almost like daily usage, I mean, there's a few little thingies here, but that's just stuff that's sort of stuck on my thing. Anyways, the foiling is still very intact. There's no like, it hasn't like rubbed off. You can still clearly see it says January to June, Hemlock and Oak 2026 daily. The spine itself has held up very, very well. And I'm not a heavy sticker user, I would say. Well, I don't know. I guess define heavy. But I do use tip-ins. I do have washi stickers. I do have stickers. I do have photos. So I guess maybe this is heavy, but to me, I feel like this is like mid. Nothing too crazy. So it's held up really, really well. There's no like buckling of the spine. It has expanded like typical fashion of most planners. The only thing I wish is that I wish I'd ordered 2 of these little clip-ins. They don't seem to sell them anymore at Hemlock and Oak, so I'm, you know, a little bit sad about that. But I mean, this is just going to sit on a shelf anyway, so it's not like it needs to be transported and clipped together. So if I'm going to show you a page here, this is a page that I did watercolor. And mind you, this is fountain pen ink that I tried to watercolor with, and I just sort of like blubbed it on there really, and so it's not very pretty, but you can see because it was so heavily applied that it did sort of seep through. But you can see, like, you know, with my different pens and stuff, like it really hasn't seeped through. This is the 120 GSM again. Paper. Here's an example of me. There's some stamping. Well, this is stamping here, and this is just die cuts that I sort of stamped and cut out. An example of, I used acrylic markers here. So you can see here, that's with Posca markers, and there's no bleed through whatsoever on the other side. If we find our tip-ins here, here is some Caran d'Ache watercolor that I did, and you can see there's no bleed through at all on that. Let me see, this is some stenciling that I did in there, and then there's no, like, it's held up wonderfully. There's no buckling of the material, and you can see that there's no bleed through or anything on the other side as well. Let me see if I can find my tip-in that I put in here. And if you're interested in a flip through of this book, I have several videos monthly that I've released. Okay, here we go. So this page here, let me just pull it a little bit closer. So this is the 70 GSM planner paper that's in the planners. So you'll notice that it's different than my scribble pad that I ordered because these are the blank pages, but it's this exact same paper, just one is from a planner and one is just the notepad itself. So you can see from here, I've used everything from the VersaFine Pigment ink, stamp, fountain pen ink, using the Kakamori dip pen, zebra mild liners, Tombow markers, Caran d'Ache watercolors. So this is, I used the crayon directly on it and then used water to smudge it. And then I used, went from dipping my water brush onto the crayon and then colored it in to see what, you know, the difference is. I do find with both the 120 GSM as well as the 70 GSM with the Caran d'Aches, it just works better if I pull the paint off of the crayon itself and then paint in my book. Whereas I find it definitely is a lot harder to sort of blend the ink around if you're painting in your planner pages. It's easier to just have the paint color and kind of paint it on versus put the paint color directly on here and then try to move it around with water. I hope that makes sense. You can see here too at the bottom here, the watercolor portion. So this is actual watercolor paint. I typically buy the tubes of watercolor paint. Also, I have the pens, but these are from the, it's tubes that's gone into a pen that's dried up that I've re-wetted, if that makes sense. So, but I've basically put it down and I tried to, you know, kind of use water to pull, you know, some of the gradation out of the ink or trying to get a little bit of like chromatography going. But you can see that it doesn't really quite do that on this paper, but it's still held up really well. Again, because of the booklet, the page is not as buckled as you would imagine it to be. And then I also tested the Tombow Fudano Suki markers, or pens, brush pens, I guess. I tested those. the various Pentel Energel pens that I have, the Clenna and the Infreeze. A couple different fountain pens. One is the Platinum Preppy F03, Platinum Preppy EF02, so those are more fine pens. And then a Platinum Preppy M05, which is a medium pen, and then a couple other Pilot Kakunos, Lamy Safari Fine, and then my Sailor Fude de Manin Fude Nib Tip pen. Oh my goodness, that is a mouthful. So I tested all that, and you can't see anything through it, which I'll show you on the other side soon. Pigma Micron 01 pen, and then I tested my Stabilo highlighters also onto here, my Sailor markers, which I love, and then some Ohuhu markers as well, just to kind of get a variation of the typical materials or mediums that I use on the daily, or not on the daily, but throughout the lifetime of using the journal, I guess. So that's what that looks like. So when you flip the page, and here I did another sort of test here, you can't see outside of the pigment ink, which you can definitely see, but I feel like if you're using the pigment ink, there's very few papers where it's not going to go. So it's just a really heavy, absorbs into the paper sort of ink. And so for me, it doesn't overly bother me unless I was doing a full montage of stamping on this side, then it probably would bother me and I probably wouldn't use the other side of the page. But when it's just like, on one area, it's not going to really bother me too much. On this side of the Hemlock Oak 70 GSM, I decided to do a little sketch. I believe I used either the Pigma, the Micron pen, or a Sharpie or something that was waterproof. And then I used fountain pen ink to paint on here. And you can see that it has held up wonderfully. Again, there's no bleed through or feathering anything on the other side of the paper. And it's the ink, I mean, of course, fountain pen ink, and there's not a lot of time to move it around on paper. And so it's not going to have the same look and feel on this paper as watercolor would. But I mean, I feel like it, for this, I'm happy with it, with how it's working, because very rarely would I be doing, bigger paintings like this anyways with this much liquid, if you will. But that is the test for the 70 GSM paper. So hopefully that kind of helps you out. We will also test the notepad because it is plain. Just so you can see the difference between, a blank page and a gridded page. Okay, so a couple other examples to show you. There's some markering that I've done there. Here is another 70 GSM that I tipped in with a sketch and fountain pen ink that I did as well. And you can also see there is no ghosting, no bleeding. It honestly just holds up incredibly well. It's great with fountain pen inks, great with gel inks, great with everything. So I definitely, I was really impressed with the 70 GSM paper. And same with the 120 GSM paper as well. Equally impressed. I have thrown everything from markers to fountain pen inks to gel pens, everything at it. And it's held up really, really well also. So I don't really think you can go wrong with any of the paper types unless you have specific usages. Or you prefer, your book being a bit thinner, then you might want to go with a 70 GSM versus the 120 GSM. Let me see if I can find, here's another one where I did like a collage. This is where it's a stamp, and this is a water-based ink, so you're not going to see anything through it. But it's also, this is a collage, so I like cut out tissue paper, and then I used matte medium, and then I adhered it. So there's a little bit of buckling, but nothing crazy. I feel like if I was to do this to every page, I'd probably get a lot more buckling, but if it's only one page every so often, I don't think it's really going to impact the look and feel of your book. And then here's another collage. So this is a heavier placement of tissue paper with matte medium, some stenciling, some paint pens, just to kind of apply it a bit heavier so I can see what it looked like. And I did the same thing on 70 GSM, but I have no idea where I actually placed that paper, my test paper. So you'll just have to trust me that it also held up equally well. And again, everything retained its vibrancy and all that kind of stuff. So it was, yeah, really, really great. Okay, so here's a page where I used fountain pen ink, and you can see it here, and you can see the feathering that I'm getting from it. Granted, I don't know if it was this type of ink or the pen I was using. I believe I was using this nib here, I think it's called the Blue Pumpkin Steno nib. It's like a flex nib. So I bought this nib because I had seen in the TikTok world that this was the nib to like try like, you know, calligraphy with for like getting the kind of like the brush strokes, the thin and the thick strokes, because it kind of flexes and opens up the tines, if you can see it. And that's what releases more ink to give you that broader stroke. Anyways, and so I don't know if it's like user error because maybe I had like dipped and there was too much ink on here. Maybe it was like the control of the pen. And so I have no idea if that's what caused some of the bleeding or if it was ink specific. So, but I would say this definitely did cause some, as you can see, bleed through and ghosting for sure. But otherwise, that is that piece. Like I said, I'm really happy with how it's turned out, the book and the paper quality for the 120 GSM. Let me just test the blank notebook paper for you with all the things I'm going to throw at it. And then I'll give you my final thoughts on the paper and the planners and kind of what I'm veering towards. All right, so full disclosure, this was actually done on a previous day but I didn't want to lose the effort that I put into in the recording that I did for capturing the paper and ink test. So now I'm going to kind of go through them with you. So as you saw in the previous video, how, all the different materials I threw at it. And so this is sort of what resulted. There's very minimal buckling from it. You can see a little bit where the watercolor was, if you're seeing it there. The fountain pen, you can feel that there's a little bit of buckling, but nothing major. Again, very, typical of the paper type. And then if I flip it over, there's really minimal. I mean, you can see some, like the Sharpie, you can kind of see through. There's a little bit ghosting. Maybe the fountain pen inks, a little bit of ghosting, but that's like a heavy application of the fountain pen inks. Otherwise, it is fantastic. Honestly, I can't say anything bad about this paper. I love all three papers that I've tried, the 70 GSM, 120 and 150 GSM. So I guess my final thoughts going into this is that if Hemlock and Oak makes a 2028 version of their daily duos with the 70 GSM paper, I think I'd be over the moon. I think it would be the perfect thing for planner for me because I would lose some of this chunkiness, and it's not so much the chunkiness. I like the chunkiness, but just the weight of it, I think. And I love, what I do love about the 70 GSM is it's like the Tomo River paper. I just love the sound, the tactileness of it. The 120 and 150 GSM paper is more, it's a vibrant white, or at least it's a bright white, and it is more heavy, if you like that feeling. And that's why I went with Hemlock and Oak when I was transitioning through planners and trying to determine what company, what brand to go with. The planner I came from, that was the $14 one, had 120 GSM paper in it. That was also equivalent in terms of brightness. And so I knew that was something I wanted to stick with. And Hemlock and Oak was one of the planners that offered that paper type. Not the same, because obviously I don't think they'd be using the same paper as a $14 planner, but who knows? They probably don't. So I think if they made a 70 GSM daily duo, I'd be sold. There's no need for me to go anywhere else anymore. And I haven't. I mean, my second year, obviously 2027, I've ordered the daily duos. I have a couple of these notebooks. I don't know what I'll use them for yet, to be honest with you, but I like having notebooks on hand because I'll find uses for them. So what I'll likely do is I'll probably transition once I finish using up a different notebook that I have for career planning. I'll probably use one of these notebooks to do my career development planning, all that kind of stuff in one of them, because I do like to use fountain pen inks for them. So anyways, that is what I've got. Hopefully this helped you determine and figure out, what planner type is for you. I would say in terms of picking out a planner at Hemlock and Oak, I would probably go with your paper type first. Unless there's a very specific layout that you're looking for, then you're sort of, limited to your layout first and then the paper type that's available for those planners. So you can go one of two ways. You can either go paper first and see, go by paper and then see what planners are available for that paper type. Or if you're more of a layout person, you can go with the layout that you want first and then see what paper types kind of mesh best with what you're looking for. Either way, again, whether you go with a 70 GSM, 120 GSM, or 150 GSM paper types with Hemlock and Oak, you can't go wrong. So if I'm wrong, come back, let me know, drop a comment. But anyways, I do hope you will come back and, let me know how things worked out for you. I'd love to see sort of your planner adventure as well. So anyways, thank you so much for listening to me ramble about Hemlock and Oak. Again, I do really love this company. They have, really great customer service. They really do take care of their customers. And they do really listen. They take the feedback. They ask for feedback. They take it, and then they kind of reflect on sort of what their product line is, and they sort of make pivots as needed. That is in line with sort of what their needs are and what their customer needs are. So I feel like with a company like that, you can't really go wrong. And plus, they are women-owned, so that's also a big plus as well, to support women in business. Okay, so that is my TED Talk for tonight. Hopefully you found this useful, and come back for my next one, because I think the next video I will drop is my flip through of July. Anyways, have a great night, great day wherever you are. Stay safe, be kind, and we'll see you soon. Thanks so much.